In the bustling city of Douala, Cameroon, two sisters, Blessing and Favor, lived in a small apartment tucked away in one of the city's crowded neighborhoods. They shared everything: hope, dreams, struggles, and a deep desire for something more than the life they had. Their father had passed away years ago, and since then, the sisters had relied on each other to survive. But survival had become a daily battle against poverty, and it felt like the universe had forgotten them. Blessing, the older of the two, had always been determined to find a way out. She was ambitious and impatient, willing to take risks if it meant she could escape their life of struggle. Favor, on the other hand, was more cautious and thoughtful, believing that success would come through hard work and persistence. But even she could not deny the mounting pressure to find a way out of their financial misery. One evening, as they sat together, Blessing overheard a conversation between two of their neighbors in the market. They whispered of a juju herbalist who could grant wealth through powerful rituals, quick, easy money for those who were desperate enough to seek it. The idea sparked something inside Blessing. She was intrigued, excited by the thought of transforming their lives with just one visit. Favor was hesitant, of course. She had always believed that shortcuts came with consequences. But Blessing's insistence wore her down. She could see the desperate hunger in her sister's eyes, the same hunger that burned in her own chest. The thought of a life free from the constant struggle, the thought of living without worrying about the next meal, was too tempting. So, the two sisters decided to visit the herbalist. The herbalist's shrine was located deep in one of Douala's older districts, hidden away behind overgrown trees and winding alleys. The air inside the shrine was thick with incense, the faint smell of herbs, and the haunting stillness that came with ancient rituals. The herbalist was an old man, his face lined with deep wrinkles, his eyes sharp and calculating. "You have come for power," he said, his voice deep and echoing. "Power to change your fate." Blessing and Favor nodded eagerly. "These perfumes," he continued, handing them each a small, ornate bottle, "are the key. You must give them to your mother. The first person she sprays will be richer than the other." The sisters took the bottles, their hands shaking with anticipation. The herbalist's words lingered in their minds as they left the shrine, their hearts racing. This was it. The chance to escape the clutches of poverty had finally arrived. On their way home, the path seemed longer than usual, as if the weight of the bottles in their hands made the journey feel like an eternity. But Blessing's thoughts were already racing ahead. She imagined the wealth that would come their way, the success that would be theirs. She thought of the luxurious lifestyle, the freedom, the respect they would earn. She couldn't wait. As they neared their apartment, Blessing looked at Favor, who was quietly following behind. A selfish thought crossed her mind. What if I could be the one to prosper? She wondered. Without thinking, she pushed Favor roughly into the nearby gutter. Favor yelped in surprise, the muddy water splashing around her. But Blessing didn't look back. She was already running ahead, desperate to reach their mother first. What Blessing didn't know was that earlier that day, their mother had been given a prophecy by a strange little boy she met on her way to the market. The boy had stopped her in the middle of the street, his eyes wide with an unsettling intensity. "Your children will give you perfumes to spray," the boy said, his voice barely a whisper. "Do not spray them, for if you do, you will die." The mother had shaken off the encounter, dismissing it as nothing more than a strange warning from a child. But now, as Blessing entered their home, holding the perfume in her hand, the words of the prophecy echoed in her mind. "Mama, I brought you a gift," Blessing said, smiling with a glint of excitement in her eyes. "This perfume will make you rich, just like the herbalist promised." The mother froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The perfume in her daughter's hand was too familiar, the same one the boy had warned her about. She tried to calm her racing thoughts, but the fear was overwhelming. "No, Blessing," the mother said, her voice trembling. "I can't spray it." The prophecy said. But Blessing wasn't listening. She was too eager, too focused on the promise of wealth that the perfume symbolized. "Please, Mama, just spray it. You deserve this. We deserve this. We've suffered for too long." The mother shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "I can't. I won't. I remember what he said." But Blessing wasn't about to give up. "Mama, please," she insisted, stepping closer to her mother. "You've worked so hard. We've worked so hard. This is the answer." The pressure was too much. The mother's heart broke as she looked into her daughter's pleading eyes. She had always wanted to give her children a better life, and this perfume seemed like the answer to all their problems. But something inside her told her to resist. In a moment of weakness, as Blessing turned her back to beg once more, the mother made a fateful decision. She sprayed the perfume into the air, the scent quickly filling the room. As soon as the mist touched Blessing's skin, her body stiffened. She let out a gasp, and then she collapsed to the ground, lifeless. The room fell silent, the air thick with disbelief. Favor, who had finally made it home after her fall into the gutter, ran into the apartment. She froze in shock at the sight of her sister's lifeless body. "Blessing!" she cried, rushing to her side. The mother, sobbing uncontrollably, explained everything, the prophecy, the warning, and how Blessing had pushed her to spray the perfume. "I didn't want to, Favor. I couldn't stop her," the mother sobbed. Favor's eyes filled with tears as she looked at her sister's body. Her heart ached with grief and guilt, but she also felt a sense of horror creeping in. She quickly grabbed her own bottle of perfume and tried to hide it, but the mother, seeing her actions, became suspicious. "Where is your perfume, Favor?" she demanded, her voice shaky but firm. Favor hesitated. Her mind raced with fear. She ran outside, hoping to bury the perfume before her mother could stop her. She found a spot in the backyard and buried the bottle deep in the ground. But the mother followed, her heart heavy with the weight of what had happened. She watched silently as Favor buried the perfume. Then, later that night, she went into the forest behind their house. There, she unearthed the perfume and confronted Favor again. "Explain yourself," she said, her voice cold and demanding. "Why did you hide it from me?" Favor, trembling with fear, confessed everything. She told her mother about the herbalist's shrine and the rituals they had hoped would bring them wealth. She had wanted to escape their struggles, just like Blessing. With no answers, Favor led the villagers to the herbalist's shrine. When they arrived, they found the place deserted, and the herbalist lay dead on the floor, his face frozen in terror. Favor screamed in disbelief. The ritual had backfired in the worst possible way. Desperately, she ran from the shrine, but her mind was spiraling, her thoughts unraveling. The weight of her actions had crushed her spirit. Back home, the mother, overwhelmed by the grief of losing her daughter, fainted. She was rushed to the hospital, but her body could no longer bear the strain. The hospital staff worked quickly to stabilize her, but the damage was done. Favor sat beside her mother in the hospital, her heart filled with regret. The dreams of wealth had led them down a dark path, one filled with death and devastation. She realized now that some desires, no matter how strong, come with a price too high to pay. As the sun set over the city of Douala, the weight of their choices pressed down on them all. The sisters' pursuit of wealth had led to the loss of life, the unraveling of their family, and the ruin of everything they had hoped for. In the end, the cost of the desire for riches was far more than they could ever have imagined.